pit so deep that God is not deeper still. And she went and she shared these testimonies and miraculous things that happened, how they were preserved, how the little vitamin vial of vitamin drops that she had just lasted and lasted and lasted as they shared it with all the women in the barracks. She had amazing stories, and she even went back to Germany to speak and to share her story. And at the end of her presentation, a couple of former prison guards came up, and she didn't know who they were, didn't recognize them. And they said, well, we've come to ask you to forgive us. And she said, well, what did you do? She said, they said, we were prison guards where you were in prison and your sister were in prison. And she remembered who they were, and they had been particularly cruel to her sister. And she said that when they asked for her forgiveness, that everything in her turned to ice. But she knew she had to release them and forgive them and wish them the best. And she said she knew she had to do that. And as she put out her hand to take the guard's hand and shake it, she felt this warmth and just this love and this flood of forgiveness wash over her and take over her as she forgave them. So she, as a result of those experiences, could very easily have made her bitter. But she realized that it wasn't the experience that was her main issue. It was her response to the experience. And she's left us a beautiful demonstration of responding in the right ways. And that's the same issue that's before us today. It's not the things that are happening to us. It's how we're responding to them. The last thing I want to give you on this is that difficulties often guide us into our greatest life work. I recently heard someone say that your greatest purpose is hidden somewhere in the midst of your deepest pain. And that's so true. I have a colleague that is a member of the John Maxwell team like I am, and she actually runs an anti-human trafficking agency in India. But the reason that she came to do that is because she was sexually abused as a teenager. And she understands what it's like to be on the receiving end of that. And so she has a heart for these girls who are trapped in this human trafficking and sex trade. And so she decided to do something about it as a result of her experience and what that did in her and the vision that gave her. She is now able to come to the aid and the rescue of many, many other young women. No one can ever take away our ability to choose to develop ourselves. No matter the conditions you're in or however bad they are, there is no other human being on this earth who has the power to take away your ability to choose to develop yourself. It's always a choice. And we have that choice. We could be in solitary confinement in a prison somewhere and still inwardly choose to develop ourselves, to see how we could learn, how we could develop. One prisoner developed an exercise course called Pilates. That was his last name. That's where Pilates comes from, and now that's used all over the world to help people get in better shape and strengthen their core and develop muscle systems. But he did that while he was in prison. He decided he was going to do something good for himself, and with that time in prison. So we have to ask in any difficulty, who or what is controlling me? Is it divine? Am I being divinely inspired and led to develop myself from the inside? Or am I letting the people and the circumstances around me, or even myself, just my natural reactions, am I letting those things control me? We have to have a vision before us of who we are destined to be. If we don't have that vision, we'll just react, and probably negatively, to the difficulties that happen around us. But if we have that vision of who we are meant to be, as children of God, I will give to you. And as such, modeling and demonstrating his character and his concern for developing to be the most we can be for other people. If we have that vision, then when we come into those difficulties, we will take control. We can gain self-control, control of ourselves and our natural reactions, and develop ourselves on the inside to be ever reaching, to reach our potential and become all that we can be. I'm going to be back in just a minute. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to look at some takeaways and some personal applications for today.
Jeff will be back shortly to wrap up today's message. This is Gabriela, still on the scene today with Talk Network Radio. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Empowered Living with Jeff Byrd. If you've missed any part of today's message, you can hear it again online, as well as the entire archive of Empowered Living at www.talknetworkradio.com or search keyword #Empowered Living. We would like to acknowledge our music partners, Sound Ideas for Corporate to the Max, and Kevin MacLeod for Airport Lounge. Any scriptures read during this broadcast are from the New American Standard Version of the Holy Bible. If you would like to learn more about Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, visit www.jeffbyrdcoaching.com. That is JEFFBYRD coaching.com. Do a Facebook search for @CoachingRocks or drop Jeff a line at jeff@jeffbyrdcoaching.com. Again, JEFFBYRD coaching.com. Let Jeff's Coaching Rocks be the building blocks of your empowered success. Now, let's go back to Jeff for the rest of today's message.
And welcome back. This is Jeff Byrd with Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and you're listening to Empowered Living. The topic today is in how to make the most of our difficulties. And as a wrap-up, I'd like to leave with you 4 takeaways for application and ways to think and to be during the midst of any difficulty that you may be experiencing. Number 1 is we must learn to see the difficulties not as setbacks, but as opportunities for greater growth, purpose, and ability to help others. None of us gain valuable insights in a bubble excluded from difficulty. We grow the most as we learn to develop in the midst of difficulty. Now think about this. When you come to some difficulty, who is it that you go to, maybe to talk to or to get some counsel, or what resources do you listen to? It's not people who have never been through any trouble. It's people who have been through them and come out on the other side. And when we're going through the difficulties, that's exactly the purpose, so that we can become, like we started the show, perfect and complete, lacking nothing. And as we grow and develop in those areas, we become so much more valuable as a resource for others. Number 2 is always ask in any difficulty, how can I grow through this? What areas inside me need to be developed so that I can reach my greatest potential? And as we look inside and look at those areas that can be developed, then we can look back outside and look for resources and others who can help and others who are farther down the path that we can get some assistance and some help from. Number 3, during difficulty, remember others who have gone through great difficulty and ended up with greater influence than otherwise could have been possible. Today, we've talked about Malala. We've talked about Alexander Solzhenitsyn, Corrie ten Boom. The world is filled with other stories, some that are famous, some that may never be known outside of small circles. Nelson Mandela, he was one. Abraham Lincoln, I was just reading the other day. He ran for office and lost 8 times, failed at 2 businesses before he ever was elected as president and became the man that we know him to be. What if he had given up? What if he had let those difficulties overcome him rather than develop him and learn to endure and to persevere, to keep that vision before him and to stay at it? Where would we be? What would our world be like had he not done that? So remembering others who have overcome and who have impacted and changed the world greatly as a result. And then number 4, during difficulty, partner with others who are committed to pressing on to become their best, regardless of their trials. We need other people like that. We don't need to be around people who give up easily, who just lose the vision, who just settle for comfort, and who lose sight of who and what they can be and the value of that. We need to have those other folks in us who can help pick us up. Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 12 says, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. For if either of them falls, the one will lift up his companion. But woe to the one who falls when there is not another to lift him up. In other words, if we're working together, if we've got some other people of like minds and hearts on our team, and we come into a difficulty, we're not going to be so bad off because we're not going to be there by ourselves. We'll have other people who can help lift us up, help remind us of the truth, help encourage our development, help keep us on track, even through those difficulties, and we'll be much better off for the team that we have around us. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today and joining me here and thinking about these things. I hope that these are an encouragement to you. I know that every single one of us has some sort of difficulty going on. Probably during this week, you've had a few different things go on. So I hope that you'll think about this and spend some time pondering these questions that we can ask and ways that we can develop ourselves on the inside during these difficulties that can make us the best people that we can possibly be, the very best version of ourselves that we can be, reach our greatest potential, learn the most, and be the most valuable to the people around us. Thank you so much. This is Jeff Byrd with Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and you've been listening to Empowered Living.